Hello, everyone. It's Sunday once again. It's now 2 o'clock, exactly 2 o'clock in the UK. It's 9 o'clock in Manila, 9 in the evening. Welcome to another episode of Ask the Drummer. I do love Sundays because I just really love talking to drummers. This week's guest, he's absolutely amazing. I have seen him live. I mean, I've got to sort of like admit that I didn't actually know of him until last March, I think it was. But I've seen him twice already. He's absolutely amazing. Actually, a friend of mine said that I've reached, or the Astro Drummer has reached the pinnacle with this guest, with this week's guest. So he said that it's going to be downhill from now on. Like, that's how brilliant this guest is. So, but I do have something so like to say sorry to him. So I'm gonna bring him on now. My dear friends, please welcome Daren Garratt.
Hi.
Yay! I did say it right, Garrett, right? It's not Garratt or Garrett.
Yes, Gareth, that's not. The
Daren
rat,
Garratt.
the rat, the
Yeah.
rat. Yeah.
How are you? Are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Very well indeed.
Well, I really do need to say sorry to you, Darren, because if you
Oh,
sort of like go back like March, 4th of March at the Moth Club in London,
I
at
know
the
you
last
I know you
gig. Well, that was the first time. I'm gonna sort of like say this out in public, but that was the first time that I actually saw you. And Dave Morgan sort of like
Yeah.
asked you to take a photo of us. And Dave Morgan didn't do any introductions or like saying, "Oh, he's a drummer too." I mean, Dave Morgan knows that I love
No, no,
drummers, but he just said, "Take a photo of us," so you did. And I think I
yeah.
said thank you to you anyways.
You,
But
you
anyway,
certainly did. You said you didn't
yeah,
mind taking a photo, so I did.
yeah. Well, the next time I saw you, you were climbing up the stage while David Lance Callahan was singing. He was singing, and
Yeah,
I
I've
thought,
had a restraining order before for that.
and I was like, "What's he doing?" Because I saw you sort of like sitting in front of the drum kit, and then you were sort of like just like testing it. It looks to me like you were just testing it out, and then I thought it must be Dave Morgan's drum tech. And I was like, but why is he doing it now? I mean, surely they will have plenty of time between sets to sort of like for him to test Dave
It,
Morgan's.
it's the one trick we have up our sleeve, that little that out thing.
Yeah, I think it was the middle of a second song.
Yeah,
So uh, David Lance Callahan was singing, and then all of a sudden you started drumming, and I'm like, oh my god, he's a drum.
well, you missed a trick yesterday because you know how small the Talleyrand is.
Yeah, yeah.
So because you got Jerry's keyboard on the side and Dave was set up, and Dana, my wife, said, how are you gonna get on stage because it's so cramped?" And before I went on, Dave said, "Have you fallen over yet coming on stage?" I said, "No, it's the one thing I haven't done." So instead of going up the steps, I decided to climb on the stage and stood up and whacked my head off the speaker. So that was a good one.
Oh,
That was
oh no.
comedy entrance.
Oh
Comedy,
no! Do you know, that time at the Moth Club, I couldn't take my eyes off you because I was just so shocked, and, I
love those
didn't.
bits.
I think it was just the long travel between Manchester and London. That I just didn't think that you're part of the act. So,
Well, you're not,
but
man, you're not the only one. It's been, it was excuse me, the early gigs. I mean, because it's become a sort of a thing now. That's why we don't do. We did it yesterday, but we don't do it so much. But at the Betsy Trotwood, when we launched the album, people hadn't got a clue. And they're like, what's this bloke doing? You know, I said the same thing.
well, I've got to say, I mean, in case David Lance Callahan is watching, I'm really sorry, but from that moment on, when I saw you drumming, I just couldn't take my eyes off you. It was like, do I video, do I video David Lance Callahan or do I video you? But anyways, yeah, I'm really sorry about that. And then also there's also that day after when I posted a video of you drumming, and our friend Nick said that he reminded me that it was actually Flisk of the Nightingales mentioned you during her her guesting on Ask the Drummer, and it just didn't click.
Nah, well,
I didn't.
well that's,
So I'm really
that's why I'm the drummer. I just, I'm at the back. That's what I do.
yeah. Well, you're absolutely amazing, anyways. And I'm gonna say, Ricky Mamie of the Brian Jonestown Massacre. Oh my God!
Ricky.
He actually said you're wonderful, and he sends his regards. But he's joining us live, and
I'm straight back.
Yeah, and David Chambers. Oh my God, another awesome drummer. He said, "All right, Chief." So yeah, and Aiden O'Rourke says, "Good sound and picture." Aiden is my tech support, so it's always good that he says that.
Excellent.
Yeah. So, right. So, how was the gig at the Talleyrand?
I really enjoyed it. Really, it was odd going up for say 3 o'clock. By 4:30, but anyways, 3 o'clock gig.
Yeah.
And there was a worry because say Dave and I haven't seen each other since the House of All gigs in May. And as you know, the songs aren't easy. But we, it was great. We did it, and Jerry was great, and there was a lot of people there. And I had my wife with me, and my very good mate Ted Chippington with me, and loads of friends came. So
yeah, I couldn't I had it on my diary, but I just thinking 3 o'clock. I was still at work, and I couldn't leave work at that time.
Not do anything but ours, do we?
Well, hopefully next time. But anyways, next. I'm sure there will be next time. There's there will always be gigs in Manchester. But anyways, so welcome to Ask the Drummer. Episode 91 is all about you. Yeah, Daren Garratt. So, can I just ask you, where were you born? Where are the Garratts from?
We are from a metropolitan borough called Dudley in the Black Country, and I was born in Worsley Hospital, and so was my wife. So so that was on April the 16th, 1971. I came into the world.
Wow. And that's Birmingham, part of Birmingham, right?
No.
Oh, it's not. Sorry.
North of it. No, it's one of those things. It's like telling a Yorkshireman he's from Lancashire. We're the Black Country is a conurbation. North of England. So it's the area it's the area where the Industrial Revolution began. Hence the Black Country. So steelworks, glassworks, very industrial town. Very industrial area, with Dudley arguably being the main town. Some people would say Wolverhampton, but I disagree. So it's like the Wolverhampton, Dudley, Stourbridge, sort of between Shropshire and Birmingham, right? Worcestershire.
Oh, right. So what was it like what was Dudley like when you were growing up? Especially music-wise.
Music-wise, well, there was. We were all. I mean, I was very lucky because my best friends when I was 4 and 5 years old are still my best friends now. So we grew up together, but also I grew up in a very not musical playing household, but with my brother being 9 years older than me and my sister being 15 years older than me. I grew. I mean, I was born on the day that Hot Love by T-Rex was number one. My sister was a massive T-Rex fan. So by the time I was 2 or 3 years old, I was just absorbed in Slade and T-Rex, and my brother-in-law's Beatles records. So by the time I got my love, which was sort of first Elvis Costello and then Madness and the Specials a year later, in 70. I was 8. I mean, I was 9 years old, and I was in the official member of the Two Tone fan club. I was just absorbed in music. It's all I ever wanted to do.
Were you like in they have your sister and your brother got records, like record collection and stuff. But were they musicians like yourself? Were you from like a musical family?
No. And that was it. It was, and I couldn't, I'm not put, it's not one of these drummer jokes. I couldn't play an instrument, I used to put the guitar down to being left-handed, the piano down to being working class. We couldn't afford one, but I gravitated towards the drums. And my mum bought me she got a drum kit from the bloke in Worley, John Sparry, on Tick, an old little jazz drum kit for about my 14th birthday. And I just taught myself listening to my favourite records.
So they're very supportive of you. So like, this is like a very noisy instrument, isn't it?
Well, yeah, but I think it's because my mum and dad were that much older. I mean, personal history, I suppose. What it was, I mean, they weren't going to have me. They weren't interested. But my Uncle Mick died in my mum's youngest brother. No, sorry, middle brother. My mum's brother died in 1970, and it was that devastating. It's like, as me nan said, when my Uncle John's dog died, she'd do what our Margaret did and have another one, which is like what I'm telling. My Uncle Mick died, and Mum and Dad had me. So I was the baby. I was so much younger, and Mum and Dad had changed so much. So my sister wanted to. She ought to be an air hostess or something, but she had to go to a shop. My brother had to go and be work with my dad. But by the time I got to be 15, Mum was 50, Dad was 55. Their priorities had changed. Yeah. And so I suppose I was indulged to a degree, which is why I could go to university, because, I mean, I was one of the last people to get a full grant. But it was still amazing that we had this just little council house. And what had always happened, because there was like the 3 kids and 2 adults in a 2-bedroomed house. So when my sister got big enough, she had, because it was like a joined kitchen and living room at the back with the front room in the front. And so when my sister got too old, she had the front room. Then when my brother got too old, I had the front room. Then there was only me left. I had the bedroom and the front room. So I had all my records were in the front room, and my drum kit. And the only thing about the drum kit was not too late, and not when I was having their Sunday dinner. That was it.
Oh. So you never had any lessons at all? You just taught yourself?
No. Yeah. Yeah, I didn't want. It's one of those. It was just a thing. I thought, no, I want to teach myself listening. Excuse me, to stump Big Flame like Captain B. Thought, no drum tutor's going to do that. And that's the thing that, Fliss, I don't know if Fliss told this story about when the Nightingales did. We were asking groups to do the tribute album.
Yeah.
And Violet, Fliss's old group, wanted to do Company Man, and she played Company Man to her drum tutor and said, "What's Daren doing here?" And he said, "I don't know. Play a swing beat." That's always made me laugh. Oh. But as I was listening to my records and bettering myself, I had levels. So
yeah.
The first thing I taught myself to, weirdly, was that opening bit of "You should always keep in touch with your friends" by the Wedding Presents on the Peel session, where he goes and so that was what I learned first on. And then quickly I went to the introduction to "I Don't Want to Go to Chelsea" by Elvis Costello with Pete Thomas's fantastic drumming. And then because I'd seen James, I was just saying this to Ted, when I'd seen James when I was 13 in the him from a village days, the factory days. Gavin Whelan was a massive influence. So so him from a village was another touchstone. But then it was the Ron Johnson groups. It was, the Eyewitness Peel sessions and Big Flame and Stump and those sorts of groups. And I remember as clear as day, drumming along with it, because the Eyewitness Peel sessions, they hadn't got a label at the time, but Peel would put the sessions out. And I used to think, well, Christ, if these haven't got a record deal, how am I ever going to get one? But it was drumming to those. Of course, I started with Mo Tucker and the Mary Chain. So and I was a Cramps fanatic. So there was a mixture of the just keeping it as stripped down and metronomic as I could, with this weird, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah. So did you used to go to a lot of gigs when you were a kid? Because I was sort of like, what I'm sort of like wanting to ask you is, how did you get into drumming? I mean, what is it about the drums that made you say that, oh, I want to do this? And
it didn't, because I felt it didn't require being taught. I'd actually, to be fair, I had my first drum kit, I think, when I was 2 or 3 years old, and I remember it. It was like the Little Chicken Band, and my ex-brother-in-law certainly remembers it, because he had a cracking hangover that Christmas morning when I sat there just bashing it out. And it was just, and it was just something I thought I could do, and I suppose being, again, 14, 15, getting into the Mary Chain, getting into the Velvets, and of course the Cramps. And it was easy. And when we had our first group, actually, I was the singer and Skiddy was the drummer, and we soon worked out that it was better the other way around. that was what we did.
Was that the Fridge Death?
That before that. Before
right? Okay. What's the name of that first band?
The first group was Martin's Overcoat. And we used to rehearse around our friend Richard's house. But our first, so we'll, because of our school thing. So here's a scoop for you. The first group, so it was me and Mark and Richard, who were in Fridge Death, with Alex Griffin, who went on to play bass in some group called Next Time at Dustbin, because we were all school friends together.
Oh, wow.
Mm. And then we went on to bigger and better things. I don't know what happened to him. He became my boss at work.
So that was your first, but you didn't do any recording, or you didn't release any?
No. The first. So I was prepared for this. So the first group to have a record out, as I say, was Fridge Death. So I was in Fridge Death and the Burning Buddhists.
Wow!
And there's also, this was my friend Rob, who was in the Burning Buddhists, and this was meant to be a charity record for Birmingham Children's Hospital.
Yeah.
And it's called Brum Brum, and it's Birmingham bands doing Birmingham covers. And so there's a really early Pram. This is great. This is Pram when Andy was still with them, doing a disco version of Black Sabbath called Jackie Black Sabbath. And Ted's on here doing his True Stories. Fridge Death are on here doing We'll Bring the House Down.
Yeah.
And so that's my first record. When that was,
that's not on Discogs. I think it should be so like that, because I did so like look for Fridge Death, and it's not listed on Discogs. So
no, it won't be. But if you put Brum Brum, like Brum,
all right,
Brum Brum, you might find it.
Yeah, your style of drumming, which is I thought was really amazing. You sort of like put your hand all the way up.
Yeah.
In the air and things like that. I remember mentioning it to you on Facebook that a few days ago I saw Joe Boxers. There's like a video. Yeah, there's a video of Joe Boxers. So like I think they played live on one of a TV show or something, and they played Just Got Lucky. And
Well,
I noticed that the drummer, I actually saw like looked up his name, something McCluskey or McCluskey, something. Sean McCluskey is the name of the
yeah,
drummer.
yeah, I
And
remember the name.
yeah, he was doing a similar thing. So I thought, hold on, because of course I didn't know what you looked like when you were young. So I
Not that
thought,
old.
so I thought, is that you? That maybe were you part of the Joe Boxers? But then I had to Google it.
Yeah, yeah.
I think
Exactly. I
it's
did, and as I
amazing.
said to you, I did love the Joe Boxers. Well, I got the first three singles. I got Boxer Beat, Just Got Lucky, and Johnny Friendly.
Yeah,
But,
yeah.
but I couldn't remember what they, what they look, and that would have been so before I even had a drum kit that it wouldn't have registered. I mean, it was
Right.
interesting. Not long ago, I mean, one of my heroes was Rat Scabies from the Damned, and watching it's the Smash It Up video, and he's doing it, and I hadn't realised,
Yeah.
I hadn't even realised then that it was a Scabies thing. Mine, excuse me, I'm having a Dave Callahan moment. Mine was there was two things. Sorry, we've seen Stump do the Buffalo video on YouTube, on the Tube.
Yeah.
Rob Mackey was doing all this, and he was my hero. But also, Fridge Death won a Battle of the Bands in 1989 at the local college. Ironically, they thought it was a fix and stuff, but it was one of the sociology lecturers thought we sounded like gay farce, so we won it. But what had happened was, I mean, when I first drummed and I had this little wooden jazz kit, and we used to go to the youth club to rehearse. I mean, we never had a car in our family, and we were saying to Mum, where am I going to get my drums up to Wordsley? And she said, well, we've got a wheelbarrow in the back. So I used to put my drums in the wheelbarrow and take them to the youth club. And actually, that made Phil Creed, who was the youth worker, who was one of my heroes, that made him fall in love with us, because that was like, that's dedication.
Yeah, that's dedication.
But then we did this Battle of the Bands, and I just remember these kids turning up, and their parents had got these, what would have been a 4x4 in 1989, and these massive Jeeps and stuff, with these Pearl export kits, and it was just glorious. And they'd set them up, and then all they would do was going.
Yeah.
I was going, hold on. So I thought, style over substance, really. And it was like, you've got this massive kit, you got all this money, you got looking at it, and you're doing nothing with it. So, like, many aspects of life, I thought I'd do as much as I can with as little equipment as possible. And that included doing this.
Yeah. That's amazing. I mean, I always say that for a drummer, I mean, I know they're always at the back, but you've got to do a bit of sort of like showmanship as well. You've got to do something.
Exactly, that's what it is. There's nothing worse than, I mean, how many groups have you been to see and you can't remember seeing them? I'd like to think that, that was my thing. You put on a show. People are paying to come and see you. People want to be entertained. You entertain.
Yeah, that's true. Well, talk about Fridge there. Again on Facebook, you mentioned that you went to Bremen with them, because Dudley is like the twin city of Bremen. So you went. Yeah, it's all like a youth exchange program or something like that. So Fridge Death went, and then Pram were with you.
We took Pram.
Oh yeah,
and we took Pram because we'd become friends. I saw them in 1988 supporting AC Temple and Godflesh. It was Godflesh's first gig. And to be fair, I went for God. Well, I did like AC Temple, pardon me, but Godflesh were builders, ex-head of David, Napalm Death, pardon me, because it was Justin and Bart, not Bart, but anyway, two of them. So I went for that. But Pram blew me away, and well, Andy in particular. At that time, they were called Hull, and I just thought they were amazing. And I started talking to Matthew, and we became friends. And so I'd go and stay in Moseley. We'd put them on. I put Eyewitness on at our youth club and asked them to support. And we were gigging buddies. And so we had the opportunity to go to Germany, and because I just mentioned Phil, the youth worker who my hero, my mentor, and he put all his faith in us. I mean, that's another story. I mean, it could be a 4-hour thing, but he shut down the youth club in about 87, 88 because he was tired of kids just coming and playing pool and playing table tennis. So he actually shut it down for the summer and did some detached work going around the local areas to find out what people were interested in. And for his sins, he met us lot, and we said, we want somewhere to rehearse and somewhere to play. And I turned up with a wheelbarrow, and he put his faith in us. So I actually started, and again, it was like, does Mohammed come to the mountain? Does Mohammed go to the mountain, or whatever it is? I started putting my favourite groups on. So I put Eyewitness on, I put the X on, Jack Dolby Crowbar, Phil Hartley out of Bogshed, Membranes.
Oh wow!
And Phil said he used to get all this like criticism in the youth service, because his name's Phil Creed, and he was like, "Oh, it's Creed's folly." That's what they called it. And he was saying, "How is it Creed's folly?" He said, "I've got these kids." He said, "They're booking the PA, they're booking the groups, they're getting ones over from Holland, they're booking the PA, they're sorting it out, they're doing the door." He said, "If that's not constructive youth work, what is?" And and it was him, and it was him who did the taking us to Germany. And it was just bullheadedness, I suppose, on my behalf. It was like, I don't want any groups around here. We'll take our mates. And I think the way we swung it was, I'm trying to remember, Ian Campbell, Ali Campbell and Robin Campbell's dad, the folk singer, was something to do with the youth service. So even though we were Dudley and they were Moseley, Ian helped swing it. And so it was Fridge, Death and Pram.
Wow.
Do you want to see me in 1989? 1990?
Yeah. Oh, wow. So are you friends with the Campbells as well?
No, that's me drumming in Germany.
Oh, wow. Oh,
got it? No.
That's oh, wow.
Germany.
Nice hair.
And there, God rest his soul, is Andy Weir, one of the greatest drummers I've ever seen in my life.
Oh, wow.
Andy from Pram. So that was us back then. So that's how we did it.
So how did you become the drummer of Pram?
How I became the drummer of Pram? I should have got that. Got the version. We were great mates, and we were great mates, and in 1993 they just released the. I was back from university then. I was teaching at Dudley College, and I remember on a Wednesday, I had my lunch break, and I went up to W.H. Smith's, as I used to do, and I'd look in Melody Maker, and there was this article, and it said, Andy jumps out of his pram, and they'd split up. And I said to whoever I was with, I said, I bet I'll hear from them. Pardon me. And then when I got home that night, there was a letter waiting for me from Rosie saying, look, long-standing difficulties, Andy's left, you're the one we want, it's got to be you, if it's not for you, we'll go to the Melody Maker and put a request, do a musicians wanted. But I said yes straight away, because I knew they got a record deal, I knew we were going to make records, and it was what I always wanted to do. So I was 22 years old, I was teaching part-time at Dudley College. So I'd come straight. This is when the Tories did something good, and Kenneth Baker, the education secretary, had said if you got a degree, you could teach further ed. You didn't need to do teacher training. So my friends had told me this, and I went in to see them, and thankfully Lynn and Dave, who taught me theatre studies, had said, "God, we were just talking about you. Do you want to come and teach?" And so I did. And at that time, I've got to tell you, it was £20 an hour, and I worked 8 hours a week at Dudley College, and I was getting £20 an hour, which cleared my £800 student loan debt, which is what it was at the time. And and whatever overdraft or whatever, and then and I said I'm going to do it. And my dad was. I remember sitting at the kitchen table. That was good. You want £20 an hour, and you're going to give it up to be in a bloody group? And I said, yeah, Dad, I said, I'm 22. I said, look, it might all fall on its arse by the time I'm 25, which it did. I left when I was 25. Actually. I said, but if I have 3 years making records and touring the world, I'm going to do it. And that's what I did.
But were you still in Fridge Death by that time?
No, Fridge Death had stopped about 92.
Okay, right. Yeah.
Yeah, we stopped doing that then.
Okay, so we were working, and then you sort of like joined Pram. Yeah. So you stopped. But
all the Fridge Death guys, me, Simon, and John and Richard are still doing this thing called Wags. But that's so we still.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really know much about Pram. I told Fliss this. I did sort of like look it up, and I looked it up again. But there's one thing that I actually found out is the third Pram album. I think you played that album as well. Is it true that the enemy sort of like gave it a knock over?
It's one of my proudest moments in my life. We were in Chicago. We were on tour in America with the full backing of Deaf America, because Deaf America, Def Jam had taken up 2 Pure, so 2 Pure America. So we flew flew British Airways. We were well looked after. We had a proper thing. We went with the Sea and Cake and Jessamine. We toured both coasts, and we were outside Wax Tracks in Chicago, and we'd managed to get the Melody Maker, and we got 0 out of 10. And I've never seen, I think in that issue, even the greatest new wave of British heavy metal compilation ever got 1. So we were that. And my thing is, if you can't be 0 or 10, what's the fucking point? The one thing I wouldn't want is 5. So now I was very, very proud of that, actually.
God, it was so I was surprised because I looked it up on Discogs. It's actually, of all the Pram records, I mean, Pram records are worth a lot of money. They are expensive.
So what label if you
want? Well, that third one, which is the one that got 0. Sargasso Sea, yeah. That's actually the most expensive.
Well, that hasn't been reissued, you see. Here you go. See, I don't think I'm not prepared, right? There you go.
Yeah, that's like, I looked it up and I was all like thinking, oh my God, how did someone give it a 0?
Because they hadn't got a clue. When you did you read the review?
I used to, but I don't do it now because I don't really want to
if you go back and read it, she hasn't got a clue. The woman who wrote it, and it's like, somebody who thinks she's Susie Sue, locked in a room on her own. I mean, there's clearly 6 or 7 people on that record. And actually, the lead track, Loose Threads, is the one that Ace Records have picked there's a new post-rock compilation coming out.
Oh,
one made that I saw, and it's Loose Threads that's going to be on that. So.
Yeah, wow. And also the first one, I know it now that you always sort like do your comments like "stay as you are."
I do.
I've noticed that that's actually the title of the first Pram album.
Wow. You're very good.
Which is really nice.
Yeah, I just think it's lovely. There you go. The stars are
Yeah,
so
that
big.
one.
You're so small, stay as you are. And if anyone out there has got shitloads of money and they want the white label test pressing, there it is.
Wow. So, you were in Pram for about 3 years, and you left.
Well, 93 to 90, just after my daughter was born.
That's
After
7.
So.
Yeah. But then after that, again, this is from Discogs. You played for someone called Marshall Smith.
Oh.
I tried looking him up.
No, it's not him. It's a
Yeah.
guy. Again, this was massive for me. This was me. I'd become, because of putting groups on and stuff, I've become friends with two of my heroes. So this is Vince Hunt from Eyewitness and later the Blue Orchids and the Inca Babies, with Alan Brown, originally the Inca Babies, but for me, Big Flame and the Great Leap Forward.
Yeah.
And this was me, Vince and Alan, and we were called Marshall Smith because when Vince was sorting out the tapes, he noticed Alan lived on Marshall Street and I lived on Smith Street, and he thought it looked good. And it was an excuse for Vince to come down to Salim's in Birmingham on a Sunday to have a curry. So we'd rehearse in Birmingham, and we thought they were demos, but Vince decided to do the single and the album.
And yeah.
Like this time, I'd already joined the Gales. I thought I was just doing some demos, and Vince put the album out. And so sadly, we couldn't promote it or anything because I was too busy being owned by Robert.
Wow. Because I tried to sort of like Google it, and I thought there's nothing on Marshall Smith. So is this a person, or is it actually the name of the band? So
me, Vince Hunt and Alan Brown.
Oh wow, it's fun. So from there you joined the Nightingales.
I did.
And so like but there's a long gap though. There is a long gap between, because it says that you joined in 2007.
No.
Is that right? 2005.
5.
So
what it was between Marshall Smith and the Nightingales, a group of us, again, old school friends. So Mark Skiddy from Fridge Death, a guy called Pete Greenway, who people may have heard of, Steve Lowe, who people may have heard of, and Falk. We were all old school friends, and we decided we used to have nights around my house, just listening to old 60s garage. And it suddenly, why don't we, instead of sitting around my house on a Tuesday night, because Pete was in this group, he was later in the fall, Pete was in this group called the Unspeakable Turks, and they actually used to have a unit in Stourbridge, so you could just go and rehearse whenever you wanted. And we decided that our Tuesday nights, instead of being around the house, the 5 of us would just go and just make a racket and just, no more than 2 chords. So I've got a good story about it. Actually, so Richard Simmons, Naughty Richard was the first one in it. And so we went to the room and we had these ideas, so we'd do Standell's covers and we'd do the Stooges. And the first night, and it was still about 2 o'clock in the morning. So you had the unit, and there was a bit of a gap where there was an alleyway, and then there was the pub, there was the Wellington. And at about 2 o'clock in the morning, we'd started cranking out Cock in My Pocket by the Stooges. And suddenly there was a lull in noise. And you heard the landlord in the window. And I was going, "You're racking me off now." So we had to stop. So that was the start of Pubic Fringe. And Pubic Fringe started playing because of my friendship with Eleanor, which we'll come back to out the fall. We got to support the fall because the fall and John Cooper Clarke loved us, and we played at Bilston. The promoter said you're the only group who can support the Damned, so then Sensible and Vanian loved us. And we supported the Magic Band in Stourbridge, and that it was just fantastic. But when I saw that the Gales had reformed, I just kept pestering Robert for a support thing, and I just wanted us to support the Gales. Just wanted to support whoever we could, and then suddenly I got this, and I went to see them in Birmingham. I can never remember the name of the place. What was the one? What the Ted one with the big ship in Digbeth? What was that called? The one on the corner in Digbeth, the top. Anyway, the Royal George. Anyway, I went to see him at a pub, and I gave Robert a copy of our CD, and of course he never listened to it, but because we just did a demo CD. But then I suddenly got this email, and it was like this really weird, intense questionnaire about, so are you all, are you friends? Do you know each other? Are you married? Have you got jobs? And I thought, this is weird for a support thing, and is your drummer any good? And I thought, well, I want the gig, so I said, well, yeah, I am actually. And who's the influences, and because I remember I said Nick Knox from the Cramps, Jackie Leibs, I Can, John French of the Magic Band, and Dill Green of Big Flame. Somehow the four of those just registered. Oh, and Mo Tucker and Palm Olive, of course, and they just registered with him, and he wrote back, and he was very disappointed that we were all old school friends, because it turned out he was so pissed off with the Nightingales, he wanted to sack them and have us as his group, even though he hadn't heard us. But we seemed very enthusiastic. But because of what I'd said in what I didn't realise my application, he said, "Do you want to be our drummer?" And that was in the September, October.
Yeah.
I said I'd love to. Bro was managing a national charity at the time, and I said, well, I'd love to do it. I said, but I really can't commit past January. And it was like, well, I'll cross that bridge when we come to it. And then so I arranged to meet him in the Weatherspoons on a Monday night, and we got on so well. It was like, well, you're in the group. I mean, he still hadn't heard me drum at that point. He didn't know if I was a drummer.
Right. Yeah.
But I got the gig. But thankfully, the Pubic Fringe were supporting the fall later that month, and Robert was coming anyway, so he came to see us, and then he realised I could drum. But by that time, I was already in the group, and I'd written Born Again in Birmingham, the drum pattern. So
yeah.
It was all downhill for me.
What's he like in real life? Because he seemed a bit intimidating. He seemed a bit scary or something. I've seen him twice already, and then I saw him in London with Lindy Morrison, but I never really had the courage to ask him for a photograph, because I felt like
I have a photograph with him, just not a point. Now, Rob is intimidating, but it's like that thing, again, we talked about this the other day, it's like with Mark Smith, who I loved as a person. Robert, who was like, when I had 2 divorces that year, because me and him were inseparable. I suppose Kev Rowland, the John Lydon, it's a sort of protective thing. And Rob is I love him to bits, but he's very single-minded, and if he hasn't got, and he can get very nervous and he's very shy, actually.
Oh, okay.
And if he hasn't, but if he's so I don't say self-absorbed, because that sounds negative, but like if you get Rob at the wrong time. We talked to our friend Kate yesterday from she might even go and see him live anymore, because if you only see him before a gig, you got no chance. He's so nervous, he's so wrapped up, it's like he's my best. It was 5 years, and we were joined. And so that's all I can say.
Well, you mentioned Marquis Smith because
Yeah.
after the Nightingales, you actually joined the Fall
It's
as
mad,
well.
isn't it? I don't,
I know because it's like, I mean, the Nightingales. I've looked at all the past members; they had loads. It's like, and then the Fall. I mean, I don't know if you know this, but on Wikipedia, there's actually a separate entry for the list of all members of the Fall. It's like, it's just unbelievable.
well,
So, yeah,
the fall story, right? The fall goes back to again. I've been, the greatest thing, and it's even up to David. If I'm only ever associated with 4 groups in my life, being, pardon me, Pram, Nightingales, the Fall, and David Lance Callahan,
yeah.
they'll be my favourite groups at one point or another. So Pram were my favourite group when I joined. The Gals have been my favourite group because they weren't really active then. The Fall, I first got obsessed in 85. I heard Spoilt Victorian Child on Peel Session, and it was that summer, I think, Peel played loads of old sessions and old stuff. He had like a trawl, and I heard that first session, and I heard Repetition and Bingo Masters and Industrial Estate, and the combination of the two. And so I became a Fall fan. I first saw him in 88, the Friends Experiment Tour. But again, Mark was always one of those people like Lydon. I said I'd never wanted to meet him. And
yeah.
then what happened was, during the Pram days, when we were on Too Pure, our label mates and touring buddies were Mouse on Mars. And Jan from Mouse on Mars, when he lived in Cologne, his neighbour was a girl called Eleanor Polu. And Ellie's actually got a song named after her on the first Mouse on Mars album. It's called Ellie in Wonderland. So when we did the Stereo Lab tour in '94, we stayed with Ellie. And then in very early '96, I think it was, we toured with Mouse on Mars, and Ellie had moved to Berlin. And we had 3 days off between Berlin and Hamburg. And Ellie came to see us in Berlin, and me and her just hooked up, and we went to the cinema, and we went to bars, and we became best mates. And so Ellie and I always kept in touch. And then when the Fall, and I had a fallow, like I think a lot of people did. The '90s were a real fallow period with the Fall for me. I didn't really keep up with them until Ruby's godfather, my youngest daughter's godfather, DJ. He'd always put stuff on tapes. He'd always send me tapes or CDs, and he sent me one with Dr. Buck's letter on it. And I just thought, fuck me, the Fall are brilliant again. And bought tickets to go and see him in Birmingham. And that night, we going to see him in Birmingham, and the phone went, and it was Eleanor. Do you want to come and see the Fall tonight? I'm touring with them. That's as much as she said. I said, yeah, I'd love to. Yeah. I said, but I've got a ticket, so I'm coming anyway. And then there was other requests I couldn't help with for Mark. But so I went, and it was great to see her. And the first thing she said was like, I'm married to Mark. And it was like, wow, I said, he's lovely and this, that, and the other. And then we kept in touch, and I sent her the Fringe thing. And I mean, the great thing, I'd ring the house. Oh, actually, then we went to. I can't. So your chronology's gone a bit now. I can't remember if I rung the house. Anyway, we went to All Tomorrow's party. Yeah, no, we went to All Tomorrow's parties when Shellac curated it and the Fall played, and on the Friday night, so we met him in the bar, and Mark was Eleanor was saying, "Do you want to meet Mark?" And I was going, So I went over, and he was like, "Oh, you're the drummer. Stuff, very good, this sort of stuff." And then I didn't know what to say, and I said, "Do you fancy playing football tomorrow? Dudley versus Manchester." He was like, "Yeah, what time? 12 o'clock. Loads of things happened, and then we went to the bar 12 o'clock the next day, had a couple of pints, And then about 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock, somebody said, right, who's got the ball? And we realised nobody had got a ball. So we just stayed in the bar. But then we really got on. So Mark became pal. I say friend, but Mark became a pal, and it used to be lovely. If I used to ring to talk to Ellie, to be like, you answer the phone and go, oh, Mark, it's Daren. He's like, oh, no, Ellie, it's Daren. And to hear that side of Mark and to meet Mark was amazing. And then when they started to play again, and the first one was at the Beer Keller in Manchester, they asked the Fringe to support. And funny, it's a true story. Funny thing was, Pete Greenway, who then went on to be longest standing, guitarist after Craig or whatever, because Pete was in Pubic Fringe, and Pete was meant to be going on holiday that week. But he said to Hannah, look, Hannah, I've got to do this. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. I might never get to play with the Fall again, and cancelled his holiday so we could do it. So we supported them at Manchester. They then asked us to support them in Bilston. We became great mates. Mark had his accident where he shattered his hip. And, I was very supportive of Eleanor because of how upset and anxious she was when he was at his operation. And that meant the world to Mark. And he became as protective of me, I think, I'd like to say, as I had of Eleanor. And we, and he kept trying to get me into the group. When I went down to see them I'll take Mark E. Smith and his gratitude. Right, when Pubic Fringe supported the Fall in Birmingham, we'd been promised £200. I mean, we'd never got paid 200 quid. Don't get paid 200 quid now. We've been paid 200. We've been promised 200 quid. And at the end of the gig, so when Mark was in his wheelchair, and at the end of the gig, I had to go to the booking office to get the payment. And it was all Alan Wise, the promoter, all his people. And there was me and Ed Blaney, who was looking after the Fall. And we got there, and Alan Wise's people went, so there's £80 for the support group. And Ed was like, whoa. What do you mean, 80 quid? And he said, well, 80. And Alan said 80 quid. He said, no, the deal is Alan gives them 100, Mark gives them 100. And Ed Blaney fought our corner, got another 20 quid. And then when I went back I had to go back to the dressing room, and Mark put his hand into his big brown envelope and peeled us another 100 quid off and made sure we got £200, even though we just travelled round the corner. So that's one aspect to Mark. And then, and then I went down to see them. They did a residency in London, and I travelled down, and I was with Pete in the bar, and he's going, "Oh, you got to stay here because Mark wants to see you." And he was like, "Oh, okay."
Yeah.
And I'm sat there, and Mark's going, "How's it feel being the fucking drummer of the Fall?" I said, "What are you talking about?" He said, "Has Eleanor not told you?" I said, "Tell me what?" I said, "You're the drummer." I said, "What do you mean?" He said, We're playing this festival in Ireland on such and such a date. I want you to do it." And I said, "What date is it?" And I said, "Mark, I can't." It was the Saturday. I said, "Mark, I can't." I said, it's the night of the night. I'm with the Nightingales. We've just done Out of Truth.
Right. Okay.
The tour. I said, I'm going to do this stuff. Me, the Gales, and Ted. What, you'd rather be in fucking Bristol with fucking Ted Chipperton and playing with the fucking Fall in Dublin? I was going, look, Mark, I said, I'm a man of, this is my group. I'm a man of honour. I thought you of all people would respect that. And he's going, oh, yeah, fair enough. They played the gig. Then after it, I went back to the dressing room. And so they'd still got the Yanks with them and Pete. And he was going like, oh, what are you doing here? And I was going, oh, I've come to see him. And then he sat me down on a chair and he called Orfeo over. And he said, Orfeo, old drummer, meet Daren, the new drummer. And I said, Mark, I can't do it. I've never been so honoured in my life. If it was the night before and I could do Dublin and get to Bristol, I'd do it. I can't do it. And he pulled out a pair of like little scissors out of his pocket and cut me quiff off.
Oh, no. Oh my
God. And it was, and after that he kept on. Next time he asked me was, I think it was because he knew we were doing a Mark Riley session, so I think that had pissed him off. So because he knew everything that was going on, and I was at home and I got a call from Eleanor in the van. They were going down to London again, and it was like, Daren, Mark wants you to come and double drum with Kieran. And I said, I can't, El. I said, but we're doing a session and a gig. He said, we're doing No Christmas for John Keys. I said, well, that's great, but I can't do it. And then and then that was that one. And then I kept being asked to be tour manager. And I just said, and I actually said to him, I said, no. I said, look, I know how you treat your tour managers. I'm not doing it. Until finally, when Keaton's partner was, pardon me, they'd got a gig in Cologne booked, and it was Vicky's due date. So she was having the baby on that date. So they asked me if I'd just do Cologne, and it went so well. Then in the new year, I was asked to stay on. But that was funny. It was because I sat in the dressing room with him, and he was going, "Oh, it's great having you around. Great having someone around who was a bit older than the others, because I'm only 7 months older than Pete." But he was great, and that's how it happened, and that was, it was fantastic, and his idea to, because we tried doing it the double drummers properly first off, but unlike say Carl and Paul or Carl and Si or whatever, when they used to just try and do the glitter band and they're both playing in sync, Kieran and I were like, we're going to play different. We worked hard to get different synchronized beats going, but the bass drum pedal, if you hadn't got that, and Kieran was such a technical, and this isn't a disparaging, such a rock school drummer. Kieran was on an arm all over the shop, and so the bass drum would the bass pedal would throw him out, and that's when Mark had the idea that I'd stand up and do like bottle surfers drumming, So,
but it took a few tries before you actually joined them. Because isn't it that if Mark E. Smith ask you to become a member, you can't say no. You've got to say yes.
Well, I think you must have done for the challenge. It was just almost so funny. Rob Prefect,
It's just amazing. I mean, how many years did you stay with the Fall?
Sadly, only just over a year. And a lot of that, I think, was personal reasons. We never fell out. We had a misunderstanding when I said, Gaynor and I have moved into a flat. So, because before it used to be, we've got a gig, and I'd say, where, when, no issue. But when we moved into the flat, it was like, I'm gonna need a bit of notice, because I might have to get a part-time job, and also, what am I going to get paid and when, so we can budget. And I think that put a bit of a fly in the ointment. But then, unbeknownst to us, Mark was initiating his split from Eleanor, and I was clearly Team Eleanor from 20 years before. And I think it was, when I said, because I was meant to go to Australia, and they'd paid for my visa and everything, and then I bumped into Pete in town, and he said, "How come you've resigned and haven't told me?" I said, "I didn't know I had." And it was, it was one of those things. But we never fell out.
Yeah. No, it's just amazing. I mean, all these bands that you were in,
Yeah,
you were
yeah.
also like a
Tell
part
me
of.
about it.
Yeah. Well, Aiden, my tech support said it's very interesting conversation, which I totally agree. It really is interesting, especially hearing about the Nightingales and the Fall. Because I had two the Fall drummers on the show, Funky Sai and Paul Hanley, and I had to tell them. I mean, because I grew up in the Philippines, I didn't really know a
No.
lot, even though I mean I love Manchester, but for me Manchester was sort of like the Smiths and New Order, the Stone Roses, but
Yep.
I didn't know a lot about the Fall, so it was great having them on the show. But after the Fall, this is another one that I find so like really fascinating. You were in the Common Cold.
I was.
It's like, I mean, the two drummers of the Common Cold, I had them on the show as well. But now I actually realize there are three drummers in the.
Well, you're as perplexed by that as I am.
So
Uh,
can you tell us more about
well,
how
that
did it go? So
well again, this again fluke time whatever. In when I was 18, I hitchhiked to around Holland to see the X and the Dogface Sermons. Me and my friend Hugh, and we turned up because we'd put the Dogface Sermons on, and we turned up at the villas, the X's villa, and Terry was like, come on. So it was the X invited us to stay. They were going on tour to, I think, Belgium or somewhere, so we couldn't do that with them because we just arrived that night. But it was like, that couple of weeks with the X really was life changing. It taught me about anarchism in action. It taught me about social responsibility. Because it was like, yeah, we don't know yet, but the dog faced know and trust you. You've come all this way to us. Look after this house. All we ask is you keep it tidy. You lock up when you leave. Blah. And then while we were there, these three people turned up. Ajay, Cigar,
yeah,
and Matthews from Flaps and Ectogram, and Dave Radford from Dave Radford, like their mate, and who's still a very good friend of mine. And well, they all are. And so we were out, so met Ajay when I was 18, and we'd always been mates and kept in touch and blah blah blah. And of course, when the Fall played in in Amsterdam, Gaynor and I went over, and it's again another great thing of Mark's. It was Gainer's birthday, so we treated her. We had the big fancy hotel and stuff, and it was. And we went for a curry with Ajay, and we really rebuilt our friendship because I hadn't seen him for so long. And the idea of the Common Cold was the Common Cold had formed in for one of those Glasgow pop or one of Rico's things. I think it was the Preston one.
Preston, yeah,
It was Marcus Parnell from Dandelion
yeah.
Ajay from Dandelion Adventure, and Dave, because they were all Prestonites, and I believe it was all meant to be about a tribute to Preston bus day. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but I think it was meant to be a Preston thing, and they did like this improvised set, and it went really well. And then because of I don't know, it's timetabling or scheduling, that Ajay and Marcus wanted to. They've got this recording session booked. Pardon me. And I thought it was meant to be Dave, but Dave couldn't do it, and it was. Pardon me, specific to this time frame, but Dave couldn't do it. They got Scrub lined up to do it, and I think originally because Dave couldn't do it, they asked the guy from the Lovely Eggs because it was meant to be Preston or Northwest.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And he couldn't do it, so then Ajay said, "Well, I'll ask Daren." It's stretching the parameters, but it's north enough. And I said yes straight away and got the Ajay's bass lines on the Wednesday. Went to Preston on the Saturday. We had a rehearsal and recorded it on the Sunday. Yeah, and it was great. It was
Well, the Common Cold did the tour because I looked it up and
yes.
they did to promote the album and things. So did you ever yeah, that one. I've got that one as well. So did the three of you actually were on stage at one point?
No, I never did the tour.
Oh, you didn't do a tour
No,
then?
no, that was fine because it was Dave. It was
Yeah.
meant to be Dave's thing anyway. I just guessed it on the record as I saw it because Dave's on the record as well. Don't forget, Dave did some
Yeah,
overtime,
and
and it just and
yeah.
because they were by, it made more sense. You know, it wasn't. I'm not bitter. No, it's one of them.
So but is that still going or
I don't
is
know.
it Common
I'd
Cold?
say
Is that,
Marcus, I don't, you
yeah,
know,
yeah.
but
Because
again,
Marcus,
I was so proud of it, you know.
yeah, Marcus and Scrub, they're now in Ginnell. They've got their
Yes,
own
of course.
band, and they're releasing a new
Yeah.
album soon as well. So, and then of course, David Chambers is now in which is
Exactly.
another
Well,
brilliant too. I love that
I'll just
band.
say, you know, as a one-off, yeah, great. Proud to be on it. It's just always lovely to, you know, to see discography grow. You know, so I just got these out, and I just thought, you know, it's more than I thought. You know.
All those sort of like records that you actually play drums.
Yeah.
So, like yeah, but the first time because you were at the House of All gig in Salford in May. Um, it was the first time actually that I've seen two drummers on stage, and to me, I mean, it's just absolutely amazing. So that's what you used to do when you were in the fall.
Yeah, but again, what we did because the first, I mean, unfortunately, Ted was at the worst one we ever did at Warwick Arts Centre because we hadn't got the sound, and but it was terrible. We just didn't sync at all, and I wasn't mic'd up, and we were playing in Italy at like an outdoor festival, and it was when Mark he was sitting in, you know, because he was always listening. He was in the hotel over from the piazza where we were playing, listening, and we had a call saying, "Tell Daren to lose the bass drum." And so I started standing up drumming, like say like the Butthole Surfers sort of thing.
Oh,
So I was almost like, I don't like to use the word percussionist, but
yeah,
it
yeah,
almost become like that. So that's
yeah.
what happened.
No,
Uh,
it's amazing having sort of like two drummers on stage. I mean, it's loud, but it's exciting.
absolutely.
Yeah. So now you're playing for David Lance Callahan.
My, no, he
And
plays
of
me.
course, of course, David Lance Callahan is the singer or the frontman of the Wolfhounds.
Yeah.
I remember seeing him. I didn't see the Wolfhounds at Preston Pop. They played at Preston Pop 2 years ago. I had to sort of like leave early because of the train situation, but I saw him live just on his own the following day. So, but I thought it was just sort of like him doing a sort of like a solo sort of like act. So when I saw you play with David Lanscar, that was a real surprise for me. So how did that come about? How did you sort of like team up with David Lance Callahan?
We were label mates and tour buddies again in the two pure days, Pram and Moonshake. Now, I'd been a Wolfhounds fan from my teenage years, you know. Well, I got every Wolf, you know, I bought the Cut the Cake, Anti-Midas Touch, every, you know, and blown away. Pardon me, by the time I went to university, in my first year at university when I knew that one, probably blown away with my best friend. I used to listen to it all the time. Sorry, so I was a massive Wolfhounds fan. And then when I joined Pram, we were on 2 Pure, we were friends with Moonshake. And Dave and I just always got on, we always clicked. We lost touch for a while, but then he DJ'd for the Nightingales one gig, and we reconnected, we swapped details. You know, we used to write to each other. I was meant to go down for his 50th birthday, which was, I can't even remember, it was years ago. But, you know, it's all, you know, that sort of stuff. And then, It was during lockdown, and I originally thought, because he was talking about maybe, because I knew that the Moonshake stuff was being reissued, like they'd redone the Wolfhounds. I thought he just might do Moonshake, and I knew Mig wasn't interested in. When it was like we were sniffing around each other, and I didn't know if he was maybe going to resurrect an idea of Moonshake and ask me in on that or something. But then he said, I got some demos. Would you like to drum on it? And it was like, yeah, cool. No doubt, no anything. So I love Dave. I think he's a musician and a writer and a person and everything. So he sent me the demos. He sent me 2 because that was the idea at first. So I did, and again, similar with the Common Cold, I had the demos from like midweek. And there was Born Again, Born in the Welfare State was I, and One Rainy September, and he was going, this goes on, so you got the strings on and everything, the samples, and go this far, then you're coming at this point. And I went down, and it was a Sunday, and we just recorded those 2 tracks on the Sunday. We hadn't really, Born in the Welfare State was pretty straightforward, and I remember with One Rainy September, he was going, "So what are you thinking?" I said, "I've got this idea." I said, "I think I want to do a bit of like a can groove," and his face was like, "Really?" But then we tried it, and it worked. Yeah. So that's how we did the first record, and then he was like, "Do you want to be on the next one?" And the next time he sent me some demos, because he'd worked on it. There were 4 of them, so I doubled my input already. And that weekend, I think I'd gone down. I think I'd gone down on the Saturday to rehearse through them and check our ideas. Then on the Sunday we did the 4 songs. And I came home, and that was it. And then when it was time to promote the records, it was like, so it was a loose thing. Can you do it? When you do it, and Dave was always up front, it's not a paying thing. It's like, I don't want it to be a paying thing. It's, it's me and you, and the first one was in Birmingham, and we've just clicked and grown, and it's become so natural and such great fun and really rewarding musically. And then when he was doing the 3rd album, there's like 7 of the fuckers, so I had to go down and we did the whole day on the Saturday. The whole day rehearsing, and then on the Saturday and the Sunday we recorded just demos. Then House of All came along, and and that's why the whole set is predominantly the next record, because we were so enthused with what we'd done, because it was us 2 together, really. And but the beautiful thing is, if I can't do it, David can still go and do it by himself, and it'll be a completely different set. But if I can do it, that's Dave. That's Dave's call. If Dave wants me, then I'll be there if I can.
Yeah.
And if he doesn't, fine. Or if I can't make it, fine. He'll do it. But it really is working nice, the 2 of us, and we're now looking to record, hopefully in November.
Is this sort of like for Moonshake? Because I've only noticed
No, sorry if I confused. No, that was what I originally thought it might be.
Yeah.
When he first sort of said, because we were talking, but then he was like, "No, he's doing this solo stuff." So.
Okay. Because I've noticed on Facebook that he's actually. So you said that they're releasing their.
They're releasing Eva Luna.
Okay. But they're not doing sort of like a tour.
No. That's sorry, I'll throw you a curveball. Then I did, I was just saying, when we first started talking, I thought, I wonder if that might be what it's going to do, because the Wolfhounds had relaunched. I wonder if he's going to do Moonshake stuff. That was my misconception.
Right. So, are you now part of the David Lance Callahan band? Or it's still just like...
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to say yes. I think so.
Yeah.
But as I say, the beautiful thing is, if it's not, if I'm not around, he'll do it.
He'll just do a solo, so like a different, so like set.
Well, I have gone from two songs to 2 songs on to 2 songs off. It's looking like for the new record.
So I mean, that's just incredible, from even before Fridge Deaths was the one, and then Pram, Nightingale. Because these are like...
I'm blessed. I'm blessed and I'm lucky, and I'll never take it for granted.
These are like major bands that you were so been part of. That's like really big.
I often think it used to be, like, if you'd have told me when I was 14, or we put in Eyewitness or Phil Hartley or Bogshed on in my youth club, I wouldn't have believed you. If you'd have told me I'd be in the Nightingales in the Fall and working with Dave, then I really wouldn't,
So when you're not drumming, what keeps you busy?
Work. Yeah, work and life. I'm very lucky. I work. My phone's going. I work local college, the Glasshouse College, which supports a lot of young people who are excluded from or who have struggled with mainstream education. I suppose you'd say the majority are autistic, but it's a craft-based college. It's based on Steiner principles and Ruskin, and it's all based around doing glass and farming. And Gaynor, my wife and I both work there as support workers. It's the most rewarding thing. But the greatest thing is we both start at 8:30, we both finish at 4, and we have our weekends and holidays together. So, it's quality of life. It's so it's supporting young people.
Do you teach music or maybe drumming? Or something? No.
I couldn't. It's been mentioned. I mean, one bloke at work, Steve, the Canadian, keeps saying, you should do drum therapy classes. It was like, how? And I don't know. This isn't false modesty. I don't know what I do. I remember, again, I can pinpoint a specific moment. It was in the Fridge Death days. So it'd be about 89, because I was in Knowles residence at Manchester, and I remember Simon, our guitarist, sending me a tape of his guitar tracks, and it was like, and I remember listening to it and thinking, okay, so what's the obvious thing to play? Well, I'm not doing that, and that was a real turning point for me, was to think, right, I'm gonna, what's the obvious thing? But no, what do I, and I don't want to theorize it, but that was the thing. It was like, I'm not going to be obvious. I'm not going to do thud whack, this bit. It's just how I feel, and I've always been lucky in that. Again, the groups I've worked with have allowed that. Always been that potential to be as musically queer as you can, as long as you can bring it back in. It's always a great thing with the Gales. To do that, something like, I don't know, like UK Running Mum epidemic or something, where it's like they don't know what they're doing. They're just making a row. Then you go wallop, and you bring it in. Then it'd be like wallop, and that sort of thing, like freedom within the constraints of the song, I suppose.
But you can't sort of like teach young people how to do. No.
That's why I never had a lesson, in myself. It's like, how do you, don't sound wanky, but how do you teach soul? You could teach a singer how to reach the notes, but how do you get that feeling, that Ray Charles? invokes. I'm not comparing my drumming to Ray Charles' singing, but it is. How do you, I just play it. It just. What I'd say is listen to your favourite records, push yourself out of your comfort zone, and the key word is play. That was the thing I used to have with Pram. I don't. I'm not a musician. Play, have fun with it.
Yeah. So is it? I always sort of ask the drummer about this. So is it natural? It's got to be in you.
Rhythm, I think.
Yeah.
No, I didn't mean that to sound, but I think, rhythm has.
Yeah.
And then if you've got rhythm, and then it becomes, I've never thought about it, I suppose, after, you've got natural rhythm, you know what you're doing. After that, you can be clever. That's when you can apply your thinking to it. But the worst thing I can ever do is think about what I'm playing, because I lose it.
Yeah.
Like Born Again in Birmingham, if I ever had to think, that cyclical rhythm, if I have to think about it, I can't do it. If I start thinking about something, it'll fall apart, because it's just, I'm just doing what I feel.
Yeah, because that's something that I actually noticed when you're playing the drums. It's like I could tell that you can feel it. Your facial expressions when you're playing the drums. Absolutely. I mean, it's like, it's really good to sort of watch, because for some drummers they just sort of they've got their heads down and then they just go but with you, I mean, you've got different facial expressions and things. And I think I always said that it's got to be. I really think that it's got to be in you. It's got to be a natural thing.
I think that's my excuse, because I couldn't explain it any other way. But
yeah, well, I know that people. I mean, drummers say that you could always sort of learn. You can learn it, and it's but
then you can't unlearn it, and the unlearning is the secret.
Yeah, I was gonna say, because the other day, I listened to Van Morrison's "Into the Mystic," and because I've got this, I mean, I've got this sort of new turntable. I actually got to hear the tambourine parts, which
Brian got it. It's as soon as you say that.
But I used to sort of just listen to it on YouTube, I'll search for it on YouTube and listen to it and everything. But now I got a copy of the record and I played it, and I heard this amazing tambourine part of Into the Mystic, and I thought, okay, I'm gonna try that, but it's hard. Yeah. I mean, you talk, so you talk about rhythm has got to be in you, and I think it's the one thing that I haven't got. I haven't got the rhythm.
It's like Jerome Green. What would Bo Diddley be without? It'd still be Bo Diddley, but Jerome Green and those maracas. It elevates it to something beyond merely unbelievable. There's something.
It's good that it's good that you say that. It's got to be. It's a gift, isn't it? It's in you. It's yeah.
Well, I don't know any other way. I know people, and it's got to be, and you can add to it again. So one of the greatest accolades I ever had was when the Gales played in Birmingham, in London, and we used to take Violet with us. And I was playing there one night, and I looked down, and there was Fliss sat behind me with a manuscript paper, notating what I was doing. I was going, "What are you doing?" And then she, and it was because I can't explain it. So, I said, "Play a swing beat," that's sort of thing, So. And it was because, and I don't know what I do. I just know when I'm happy with something I've done or I'm not.
Yeah.
And I suppose that's the thing about having knick-knocks, as from the Cramps, as much as an influence as, say, John French from BFAR, because Christ, fuck, they wouldn't. Nick Knox, the only drummer to never break a sweat, and to do what Nick Knox was perfect at what he did, and and if you can do the two, then you've got it sorted, I think.
Well, I've got these standard questions I ask because I know we've been chatting for about. I mean, it's amazing. We've been chatting for about an hour and a half now, but so yeah. But I've only got these standard ones, and then I'll let you go. So, of all this this showmanship and this style where you put your hands up and it's really good. Do you twirl? Because
no, oh no, no. No. I don't twirl.
So it's not part of your
I'm a twirler.
Why not?
For the same reason I can't dive. Christ, and I can't hold them for all songs. They get flying off here, there, and everywhere. If I try to do that, I'd have somebody's eye out.
Well, David Chambers said no twirling. Okay.
Exactly. See, that's why he's gone up in my estimation.
Well, I know that you use several types of drumsticks. You don't use just one. I think I remember there was one time you're also holding a maracas.
Yes.
While you're drumming. That's really unusual.
I don't pay for a percussionist. So, no, it's just if it was just again. It's interesting for me. It's good for and it was a challenge.
Yeah.
Because when we did the record, we overdubbed. But do it live, I had to learn how to do it. So that was a challenge.
That's right. And right, so I've got ask you now. Well, David Chambers said cheeky. Right, we're live again. Thank you so much for coming back.
My pleasure.
By the bus. Yeah, sometimes that loop. Someone actually said to me, "It's like Max Headroom or something."
More entertaining than you guessed.
But we will edit everything and make sure it's smooth when we upload it on YouTube.
I don't like that.
I think it's down to David Chambers where he said cheeky, and then that's it. Yeah. But anyway, so I asked about the twirling, so no twirling, that's fine. What about drumming heroes?
Well, yeah. So how many do you want? So I'll do 10.
Yeah, as many
as 10. I suppose in order. Pete Thomas from a kid. Palm Olive, Maureen Tucker, Gavin Whelan of James, Nick Knox, Jackie Leibs out of Cannes, John French of the Magic Band, Dill Green of Big Flame, Rob Mackey of Stump. I probably missed out someone completely obvious.
What about any of the fall drummers?
Well, see, I was talking about this with Ted. Now I never saw Carl. I did love, I do love Carl, but he wasn't I can't say he was an influence because I didn't sort of listen and study, I suppose. Happily, maybe. No, I'm not going to give him the credit. There's another one. I said Palm Olive. I've said
Palm Olive. Yeah.
Scabies. Thank you, my lovely wife. Yes, rat scabies.
Yeah, that's right. What about Rennie? the human sort of like
what the
Bernie of the Stone Girls.
hangovers thing. Oh no, no. See again, I can appreciate him as a drummer, but I never liked the Stone Roses. But I can appreciate that. Oh, Jesus Christ. What have I been talking about? I've missed off Clyde Stubblefield from James Brown and the Meters drummer. I mean, yeah, funk. You know, Clyde Stubblefield definitely. God, I feel ashamed now. Yeah, the funk drummers, really. So I tried to bring that, definitely James Brown. But and again, it was always when we talk about the two drummers. This is one of Robert Lloyd's favourite stories when we were talking about drummers, and I think my grail to learn how to drum was the song "Lick My Decals Off, Baby" by Captain Beefheart, and I'd sweat blood trying to copy that, and it was only later I learnt it was two drummers. And similar with Cold Sweat by James Brown, when they do that break. So yeah, so my heroes is me trying to sound like two drummers.
That's good. You spent sort of like time with Fliss, and you've seen Lindy Morrison as well recently. Would you say there's a big difference between female drummers and male drummers as far as maybe sort of like style or
Can I say yes? And one of the greatest accolades I ever had, and actually, again, when we were in Amsterdam, I actually asked Viv Albertine this question, and she didn't get it, did she? Because one of the greatest accolades I ever had was off, again, God rest her soul, Mary Hansen from Stereolab and the Wolfhounds, and I sent her, I think it was the Marshall Smith single, and said the reason she loved my drumming is it reminded her of female drummers. And so it wasn't that powerful macho thing. It was more like it's left side, right side, or whatever. But Mary, I'd never heard it before. But Mary said she thought I had like the female rhythm. So because of that, yes, and definitely. I mean, it's not this, is it? And Palm Olive, Mo Tucker. It's the greatest drummers. Palm Olive's just,
Yeah. Which reminds me, John Langford, because we saw it. No, sorry, John the three Johns.
Yes.
No, yeah.
The drum sheet, they have no soul.
Yeah, we saw him there. Well, it reminded me because he did say before that the best drummers are female drummers.
I agree.
Which, yeah.
But I think it's what, I never, when you saying that, is it because what we talked about is innate expression and innate beauty and in innate just feeling? And so you express yourself, you don't show up, so I don't twirl. Have you ever seen a woman twirl? No. So, and I think that's maybe that's it,
Yeah.
Again, I'm never, I think I'm more of an arrhythmic section than a rhythm section because I've never really, sometimes you have to lock into a bass player. But when I used to play in prom, like me and Sam, it was fantastic because I hadn't, Sam's bass lines were just all over the shop. But I've always tried to be a melodic drummer. So I follow the vocal lines. So again, a lot of the Gale stuff, there's, I try to have as many gags in my drum pattern as Rob has in his lyrics. So I almost see the drums as a lyrical thing rather than a pounding.
Yeah.
I'm talking rubbish now, but I don't know. But that's what that's what maybe that's it.
That's brilliant. That's very good. Well, what about you've been drumming since you're 15, 16, isn't it? So it's been a long time. Yeah. Have you ever had any accidents or what I call like drumming disasters?
I fell off the stage a few times. Uh, Blisters, lot of bloodshed. My own. That was a cracker when I'd not long joined the Gales. There was two incidents with the Gales. I've got Ted might remind me of some more in a minute, but I know definitely when we played with blood red shoes, and they they'd got the major label interest, but they were supporting us, and they kindly allowed us to use, as long as I took my breakables, because they were in London, we could use their kit. And the poor lad, I finished, and he's just there wiping the blood off his toms. And then when we played with Popular Jezebels in Birmingham, but again, Dave Twist, ex-prefect or whatever, and he'd got his big Jerry Nolan kit, and and it was there, and it was glorious. And the look on his face when he'd got his alcohol solution, wiping all the blood off the toms at the end. So I've had a lot of bloodshed. I did my penultimate gig with Pram. I fell backwards off the stage, off my stool. I nearly knocked myself out yesterday getting onto the stage with Dave. Other people have nearly suffered more than me like that. Poor old woman in Shrewsbury when the Nightingales did What's Not to Love, and honestly, my stick nearly took her eye out when it went flying across the room. And then a fringe rehearsal, and Pete Greenway used to have a shard of cymbal on his mantelpiece for the longest time because it missed his eye by about a quarter of an inch. I smile about it now, but at the time it was terrible. It was, yeah. So, but I've now, and I'm not, blisters probably more than anything.
Yeah,
that's what you mean by and well, drum kit, the great collapsing drum kit. I mean, we haven't got time to talk about Derek and his bricks, but again, because of money and issues, when I'd lost a drum leg, and because I couldn't afford a new drum, the Nightingales used to go on tour with a couple of like house bricks to keep my drum kit up. So I've broken many drums. But yeah, that's.
And what about when it goes it goes away from you? So it's like
walkable.
You do need a rug, like a really good rug.
We didn't have one yesterday, thankfully, because the sound man hadn't turned up yesterday. We couldn't have monitors. It wasn't good for Dave Ricketts, Callahan. I mean, we could have, but I could put the monitor in front of my bass drum to stop it walking because there was no rug. And now, the walkable kit was always an horrendous thing, And it still haunts all my dreams. You turn up and I've got to make do with like a bell instead of a bass drum pedal. My dreams and turning up and I haven't got the kit, or I'm having to make do with like a proper jump thing. That's frequent.
Well, another question that I would like to ask you, because you mentioned that there's like blood, and then the next drummer will be playing using that drum kit.
We were headliners. No, we were headliners, but it was their kit.
But
so that's why they were there wiping it down with just a look of hatred on their face.
Well, that's so like what I wanted to ask you. It's like if there are several bands playing on stage, well, one after the other, and there's only one drum kit that you have to share between all the bands. How precious does the owner of the kit get when it comes to other drummers using their kit? Like you have your own kit, you have your own drum kit.
I treat my drum kit like the car, or the car. It's a vehicle, it's a tool. Get to where you want to be, and I think like the like the shells and that are good. A snare's a problem because if your snare goes, it goes, and I've only got that little 10-inch snare, so I'm precious about that. And I am precious about the cymbals because they're not mine. I borrowed them off John from Fridge Death because I can't, I can't afford any decent ones. But again, when we did the House of All tour, what was great was Funky Si and Paul. Once they said me the first time, I was like, yeah, use the cymbals. Then no, I'm not going to be, I'm not going to be reckless. I'm going to treat it with respect. I might be heavy-handed, and I think that's the thing. And I think there's too much preciousness about kids. The biggest issue I have is being left-handed. So the first thing I have to do is go and apologise to the sound man. But again, if someone's only got one rack tom, I'll leave it. I won't bother changing the mics or changing the. Let's just swap the bottom stuff around, and I'll make them amend. If I haven't got to put my drum kit in the car and travel them, then I'll use whatever. And again, and it comes back to what I said ages ago about the wheelbarrow and the kids in the Subarus and their Pearl Exports. I've played, tin cans. I've used drums. I've used bricks. Sorry, as part of my kit. It's part of the challenge. It's part of playing. It's making rhythm and doing what you've got to do to get your job done. I'm not precious.
And can a drummer just play any drum kit that's around? Or does it
it's difficult. Yeah. My thing is, again, it's a hype thing for me, because again, you'd see all this footage of like Phil Collins and stuff, and he got this little head, all these drums around and stuff. But then I saw like the attractions, and Pete Thomas is like this. He's like a praying mantis over this kit. And I thought, wow, that looks ice, and he's so ice. So I always have my kit really low. But I didn't know he's a really lanky streak of piss, isn't he? So he's really big over all of them. But so a height thing, and if someone's really I have my I can't stand a hi-hat up this high, and but people do. So it's a height thing for me. As I say, I'm left-handed, but if I've got to go the other way around, I'm just. It's nice to be nice, and I can't be asked moving around and stuff.
Well, Ringo Starr is left-handed, isn't he?
Yeah,
she's a left-handed,
left-handed. Yeah, but he plays right-handed, doesn't he? And actually, that wasn't fair. Ringo gets a fair. He gets an unfair drubbing, because some of them are fantastic. But, I know a lot of people say the left-handed but I play right. Well, why? Again, it's almost like I love the fact that in every way, my drumming's a mirror image of the bloke who's going to come on before or after me. As I said, it's that thing. What's the obvious thing to do? Well, I'm going to do the opposite. Immediately, people go, "Ooh, the proper drummers. Ooh, I didn't. You it's the other way around. No, it's not. It's the right way around." For what I do,
Right. Well, my last question is, what would be your advice to aspiring drummers?
Don't do it. Don't be precious. Don't be precious. Enjoy it. Play. Have fun. Experiment. Push yourself out the zone. Don't have lessons. Don't do fourth. I mean, again, it was always Robert's thing. I've never known a drummer who can play like you, but you can't keep a 4/4 beat to save your life. And it's just enjoy it. I mean, it's and don't be happy to be the one in the back going thud whack. The drum should be the lead instrument. Make the drum the lead instrument. Make the drum the thing that the others have to play around. Ingrain yourself in the song. It's like follow the vocal line. If there's a gag in the lyrics, add a drum gag. Do what you've got to do. Don't be boring. Have fun. Play.
Yeah, that's absolutely brilliant. It's true that drummers should be, because I remember a friend of mine said that you've got to put the name of the band that say like Daren Garratt off this band and stuff. And I said that I think it's time for music fans to actually know the names of the drummers instead of just the singers.
Yeah, and again, and it's and like yesterday, like because Ted had come down in the car, it was a conscious thing yesterday, and I look back on my old pram photos. So I had to drop one of the things. I decided to take just a 3-shell kit. I didn't even have a floor tom. Just had my snare, a rack tom, and the bass drum. And another thing is, do as much as you can with as little. Why be like a Neil Peart and have like 78 drums and go, have 3 and go, chuck it down the stairs. That's
brilliant. So what's next? What's the next gig?
1st of September in Bristol with David at the Thunderbolt.
Oh, brilliant. I've not been to the Thunderbolt. I've been to Thekla. Yeah, hopefully someday I will do. So would you like to invite?
Come on.
Yeah. Well, would you like to invite us or like friends to come and see you at the Thunderbolt?
It always helps. Please come and see us at the Thunderbolt. That's if it is the Thunderbolt. And I was in Bristol.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Daren. And I'm really sorry about what happened earlier, but it will be smooth when it's sort of like uploaded on YouTube.
No, keep. Will you please keep the in? So throw it in and then just cut. So they have what's going on. Please. The only thing you do, keep in. That'd be nice.
Oh God! Well, thank you so much, Daren.
My pleasure.
I really enjoyed chatting to you. I'm sorry it took such a long time because I always felt like I always just say an hour and that's it. And enjoy the rest of your Sunday.
And I shall hopefully see you soon.
See you soon. Thank you so much. Bye for now. Bye. See ya. All right. Oh, thank you so much, everyone, for joining us live. I'm really sorry about what happened earlier, but it was such a brilliant conversation. And like what my tech support said, that it's so interesting and so exciting just talking to Daren. But yeah, next week I'll be back with another awesome drummer, a female drummer next week, because we've heard Daren saying that female drummers are absolutely amazing. So I'm going to have a female drummer next week. Please do keep an eye out for the guest announcement post on the Ask the Drummer page. But for now, enjoy the rest of your weekend. And as always, love music, love life, love drummers. They're absolutely amazing. I really think they're the funniest and the best sort of like musicians in the whole world. They're so cool. Thank you so much, Daren. So I'll see you all next week. Bye for now. Bye.
And friends of Ask the Drummer, this is Daren Garratt. I appeared earlier. As fantastic as the interview was, when asked my influences, I realised I omitted the most important ones. Not the influences, but the inspirations. I did not mention Catherine of the X. Undoubtedly the single most important one in my life. In fact, when I took Robert Lloyd to see the X and he saw Cat, all he could say was, "You dirty, cheating bastard. I thought you were unique." And then there's Teresa and King, the double attack of the Butthole Surfers, on whom I based everything. So, apologies, but Cat, Teresa, 2 females, and King, Teresa and King, a double act, they were the inspiration for me. And I would hate it for them to go unacknowledged. Thank you. This has been a drummer public service announcement.